not like you can think as many thoughts as you want in a day. It's not like that. There's a limited amount of thoughts that you can think in a day. It's just as good as that. That's as good as it gets. So when you start understanding that dynamic of energy creates energy, right? Like creates like, you start getting the real potential of how your thoughts can actually fucking shape what shows up. And then you get a lot less scared when you realize how that dynamic, this plus this equals this, actually works. Then a lot of the things that kept you in scarcity or kept you thinking that, okay, maybe I can't, it starts to reformat, like, oh fuck, you mean I can? Okay, so, but then to get to the I can, it might mean there's only, okay, again, since there's only so much room, and since in our thinking we have what we call meaning making, or a way that when something happens we tell ourselves a story around what it looks like, and then we live out of that story as though it's true. So the meaning making becomes your currency. It's what you use to either keep you locked into a pattern or a world, or it's what you use to create freedom around it. Is to kind of witness for yourself where your conversations are coming from. Not just the ones that you're having with each other, but the ones that you're having with yourself. And you start reaching a boiling point where there's no such thing as too much witnessing. You know what I mean? Whereas the better you get at seeing yourself, the better you get at creating a reality that's the one that you want. So, I found that, no matter what form of personal development, whether it's yoga or breath or, surfing, whatever it is, artwork, whatever that place is that takes you into that just abandon to just be you, that's your healer. That's where you start to develop a relationship to presence. And the relationship that you develop to presence will give you access to all the other things that only show up in presence, like joy. Yeah. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We're going to look at presence. We're going to look at meaning making. And I think that's one of the most impressive ways to learn is for you to enter into your own conversation and see what's real for you. So that if there's something that's coming out that's discardable, you can hear it for yourself. Because there's a time when you're in this experience where you're actually kind of detached from your everyday thinking, and it allows you to see yourself in a different way, right? And it brings you into relationship with yourself. And when I say that, I mean, okay, so there's you and then there's you. Right? So there's the one who's doing the talking, right? When you're talking to yourself, oh, I know I should go right. Shut up, go left. Like, which one is it? Like, who's listening? When you're talking to yourself, which one of you is listening? So we already know that it's not just my imagination. There really are at least two of us, right? There's the one who's talking to us, and one who's listening to us talk. So if you do this process where you look in the mirror and you look at one eye and you say, okay, who's home, right? And you say, oh, hi. You get to know that person. And then you do that one. You go, hey, what's up? And then you see a completely different energy. And you'll have a completely different conversation with the one who's showing up. You start to recognize who's home. And then you start to realize that, at least one of you is scared. Yep. And that's just kind of a universe, not that everybody's scared, but it's that as we really witness what's going on, we do notice that there is a little kid in there. And for a lot of kids, it wasn't all easy. And, as kids, we don't have the value system, we don't have the languaging, we don't have the understanding of how things work, and we tend to come up with ideas based on our limited amount of thinking, right? So you're 6 and your parents get divorced, right? It has nothing to do with you, but immediately you think, oh, if I was this, maybe Daddy would have stayed. Maybe if I would have been more like, maybe Daddy would have stayed. Maybe if it would have been less like Mom, that Daddy would have stayed. You start coming up with ideas about yourself, and you start coming up with ideas about life. Like what you think life would look like. And then, the littlest thing happens, where, for example, I know somebody who was having a perfectly good day as a 5-year-old outside playing. And his father came up, drove up in the car and walked out of the car, got out of the car like any other day, instead of going up to hug him, came up and spanked him and said, go in the house right now. And he never knew what he did. To this day, he doesn't know what he did. But he remembers the spanking. And, what happens then is we tell ourselves something. Like, I never want to be bad again because I never want that to happen again. And you use your imagination. I mean, that's what got you here anyway. I mean, your imagination is your best friend, but it's, you got to use it. So you can imagine the meaning making, right? So you can imagine as a kid, shit goes down, you tell yourself what you tell yourself. So then now you're becoming an adult and you have a different reasoning, right? So you can understand, okay, it wasn't my fault, that wasn't my fault my parents got divorced, that kind of thing. But then there's that little kid who's still that other voice. Who's like, I'm sorry. So there's a way in which we apologize for ourselves, not in a way that's very loud. And, for some, they're always saying, oh, I'm sorry. But some of us aren't. We're just walking through the world like we're sorry. Like, I'm sorry I'm born. Like, I didn't get it right. Like, maybe I'll do better next time. And it comes from a really genuine, unconscious conversation that we kind of develop over time where we don't feel good enough. Like, if I just could just, if I would have just got it right, then maybe my dad would have been able to, or maybe my mom would have been able to hug me, or maybe. But it's still just us creating a conversation, trying to make sense of us, right? But then as you get older, you understand that there's a way to listen in which we're not geared for without a little practice. So it doesn't make me special or people who can astral travel special. It means that, there's a muscle. In the same way that yogis do yoga and, after a little practice, they can put their head behind their ear. But it's the same with learning to listen. It's not that you have to be born special. It's this that you have to be able to understand and discern the conversations that are showing up. They've been happening anyway. That's what got you to here. That's what gave you the courage to leave Ireland. There's ideas that we have that we think may be ours, but where'd they come from? Why did you suddenly get an urge to produce that kind of film instead of this kind of film? Like, where's it coming from? Where's the calling? What's your contribution that's organic? This starts to come with listening. It starts to come with also being present.